Welcome to Beyond the Brink, the show that explores global events that are pushing people to their limits and driving them to the brink of change. My name's Christy, and I'm here with Melissa, who is
Hi.
across the country somewhere.
How are you? Good to
I'm doing great. I'm doing fabulous. So if you're watching on YouTube or Rumble, please hit the like button and subscribe to our channel. And for those who are joining us on X Spaces, please share the space right now so we can get more people in here. You can catch up on all of our previous episodes by visiting our website, vitabroadcastnetwork.com, or hear us on your favorite podcast platform. Just search for us using the handle at Vita Broadcast. Now, tonight we're going to touch once again on the U.S. debt clock. I mean, that's always an interesting conversation, isn't it?
It is.
We ran across an article written by Eric Snyder. You may have seen it. It was in George Magazine, and it was quite interesting. There were some tidbits in there that I think both of us had was not aware of, and we wanted to share that with you. It's titled "The U.S. Debt Clock: Ascent to Consciousness."
Yeah.
So we're just going ahead and take it away, and we'll discuss it and see where it takes us. And if you'd like to chime in, we'd be glad to have you be part of the conversation.
Yes, I will do my best to keep my eye on the spaces, and also we're streaming live on Rumble now,
Right
and
on.
and also on Facebook and our YouTube channel, and even on X. We have video going on there as well. So lots of opportunity for people to chime in if they're interested. You know, Christy, the debt clock. We've talked about it before, and you have to kind of sit back and say the who, what, when, where, why, how type thing. I'm getting a feedback here, and this article really touches on that.
Oh, it sure does. It's an incredible article. I'm trying to get you over here. A little feedback. Yep. We have too many things streaming here. It's all good. It's all good.
I think I
As
fixed
long
mine.
as our audience is not getting feedback, right?
Right. Yeah, so this Eric Schneider is the person that wrote this article, and I kind of was trying to find out who he was, but I really wasn't able. I found a couple different Eric Schneiders that were journalists, uh, but I wasn't sure if it was the right one. So the only Eric Schneider that I can for sure say is the one that is working for George Magazine now, but he did his homework on this U.S. debt clock, and so yeah, this article is very interesting, and we'll go over it now for you.
Melissa, do you have the debt clock? Are you able to pop it up really quick? So
I,
for those who have not seen it, maybe they could take a peek at it
yeah,
and then we'll start talking about it.
that's perfect. Yeah, so for those of you who aren't familiar, there is a website called usdebtclock.org, and it has let's see, go here. It shows, and I'm going to make it just this. It has in relatively real time the state of the union, basically the state of the United States debt. It shows the federal tax revenue and revenue per citizen, and how it's broken down between income tax revenue and payroll tax revenue and excise taxes, and then even at the state level and the state revenue. um, there's so many different things on this clock that's very interesting, and you could spend days clicking on each area, and when you do, it kind of will bring up different. Let's see if I can get one. So if you kind of hover over different categories, so this U.S.
Right.
federal tax revenue, it'll pop up and give you a little information and kind of tell you where the source of that information is. And I
Right.
think that's really awesome too.
I do too. And one of the most staggering numbers there is the And of course, we have, I don't know, what is it, 8, 9 times that is our unfunded liabilities, which is, I think the last reading I saw was $212 trillion. I mean, this is magic money. This is all this is.
You know,
Monopoly. You ever played the game Monopoly? I mean,
yeah,
this is what we're playing here.
yeah. Well, and really for many of us that don't give this really much attention because it is overwhelming. You're seeing all these numbers. You don't really maybe understand exactly what they all mean, but when you do look at it, it takes there's a number there, there's a figure, real dollar.
Yes.
And you try to you're like listening to the politicians passing these different debt packages and things they're going to pay and this money and that money, and if you just simply apply it to your own personal account, your the way you would run your household, we would be long gone by now. Like we would be destroyed if this was our personal situations. And so it's very
Yeah.
to me.
You know, what's interesting is that every box on here is a debt related instrument or a debt related category. When people realize, and you look on the United States dollar, it says a Federal Reserve note. So that note represents debt. And every one of these boxes is a debt laden box, just broken up out of this national debt number and the unfunded liabilities. It's an incredible, staggering number. That's why it's monopoly money.
It's crazy.
It is
It,
crazy.
it makes me sad. It makes me sad to see it
Yeah.
this way. But yeah,
Yeah. So it starts off here. It says, there are two ways to conquer and enslave a nation. This is a quote by John Adams. And one is by the sword, and the other is by debt.
mm,
And that is by John Adams from the second president of the United States. And it's huge. And let's sit and let that marinate for just a moment. I mean, how are we going to enslave a nation? Put us in debt.
yeah, yep.
That's how you do it. So
I mean, that is like the worst because I don't know if how other people feel, but I know that when I'm in debt, or I don't have any money, you almost feel crippled. You
yeah,
know,
it can take your breath away.
it breaks you,
Yeah.
and then at some point you become so um tied up with it that you're living your life to sustain the debt only. And so, the whole rat race, they call it the rat race, or get on the hamster wheel and you just keep going, punch in, punch out, come home, you're too tired, your family suffers because, you're absent from them because you're tired out from doing something that maybe you didn't even really want to do, but you were forced to do because you have debt or whatever. This is America on steroids, you
Well,
know.
that's that feedback. Debt has, it's almost like a mental illness, if you will.
Yeah.
When I was working in my previous career, I would go and consult with people in their homes, and that's what I needed to see was the state of their environment. And when I saw bags full of unopened mail, see, when the
Yes.
mail gets to be too painful for people to open, it's just this debt is so staggering. It will start to erode your psyche
Yeah.
and your self-worth. And I've come to the conclusion that this is by design. Of course, our own behavior is part of it, but when we're printing money ad nauseum, we're just talking about, or I'm not saying we are, but as a government, the Federal Reserve, and they're getting ready to ease again, which means they're just going to run the printer press,
Yeah.
which is going to create more debt, which is going to create more inflation, which is going to make prices go higher. So if you're out there trying to make ends meet, I mean, there's only so much that can go around, right? And you take a look at what's going on around you. I mean, homelessness is a problem in and of itself. It's not because people just want to live on the streets. There was a time when that was the case, but now it's out of necessity. It starts off can't make the rent, live in the car. You know, maybe you're just feeling pretty bad about yourself. Maybe you'll start drinking. Maybe you do a little drugs, and next thing you know, you've got your own debt spiral going on in your own life. So it's a shame, and I'm so happy that these people put together this debt clock. So I'll get off that little diatribe there. So almost 248 years after signing the Declaration of Independence in 1776, it remains clear that the majority of Americans today have almost no knowledge of the history of our monetary system. I would say that's true, wouldn't you?
Yes, it is true.
They don't teach it in school.
No.
And what they do teach is Keynesian economics, which is a debt-based economic system, which is really why we're in the situation we're in right now. While the Continental paper currency was initially used by the Continental Congress during the war, our founders were brilliant enough to fix this monetary fallacy after the Revolution through provisions within the United States Constitution and the passage of the Coinage Act of 1792. Now, coins are real money. By establishing a bimetallic standard, units of measure for our coinage, as well as free coinage at the Mint in Philadelphia, our system was able to protect the people of the Republic from the economic experiences we're now living through today. We're experiencing debasement, inflation, stagflation, deflation, and soon hyperinflation.
Yep.
With the loss of sound money principles over time, the fiscal well-being of the United States has continued to deteriorate to unfathomable levels. In December 2023, credit card debt passed $1.2 trillion. That means people are living on their credit cards.
Yep.
Student loan debt surpassed $1.7 trillion. So if you are in that profession or started school and didn't finish, this is adding to this number.
Yeah.
And U.S. unfunded liabilities surpassed, here's the number I told you about earlier, a staggering $212 trillion. While these numbers are abhorrent, being able to watch them grow in real time has proven to be an incredible resource. And I'm so glad that we have this resource and we're talking about it tonight. Enter the usdebtclock.org. That's USDC, a website that has piqued my interest as well as, the author's interest for many years. But
Eric.
especially in recent months, yes. What's the gentleman? Eric Snyder's interest. Yes. He's the one that wrote this article that we're piecing together here. And as of, as the variable changes on the site could indicate a major change to our nation's monetary system is about to emerge. It's very interesting because several days now there was no post on X. I think since February 22nd, there was not a post. And so today is the 23rd and or 25th. And today there was a post.
And I'm going to share that picture that they, let's see, hopefully, yeah, I will add this. This is what's on there today.
Yeah. Leave the old world behind.
And yeah.
Wealth is freedom. Debt is serfdom.
Yep.
U.S. Treasury certificates. USA Treasury certificates. Could this have had something to do with an executive order that was signed a few years ago in the 45th administration?
It could. It very well. I'm in the camp that those wheels were set in motion back then.
Yes, I do too.
Hey, I want to welcome Quincy Butler stopped by the show, and Heather is joining us. one of the channels, and we appreciate you guys stopping by the
Yeah.
show. Please let us
Thanks
know.
for popping in.
So, so this article continues on, and it covers the debt clock history. And William Moore, let's blonde. Let me see your boxing gloves, please. I don't have any boxing gloves, and I'm not blonde. So, all right. So the debt clock history, the usdebtclock.org website is an expansive and enriched internet-based version of the popular Durst National Debt Clock that was in New York and the Peterson Foundation National Debt Clocks, which were installed in major cities throughout the United States. So back in the day,
they're all over.
They were physical clocks that were put up to give the public a view of what the heck was going on. Now, the Durst National Debt Clock was the first of its kind. And in 1989, a real estate developer named Seymour Durst decided it was important for Americans to reflect on the nation's $2.7 trillion debt at that time, 1989, $2.7 trillion debt, with only 2 data points reported. And the first data point was the national debt, and the second data point was family or persons' shares of the debt. And both the national debt clocks have stimulated much debate. Both of those, there was a lot of debate over it. The Durst clock was especially relevant during the Keynesian economic bust cycle of the housing market in 2008. While physical debt clocks continue to appear throughout the country, it doesn't appear that the Durst family or the Peterson Foundation have any connection whatsoever to the current agent, the usdebtclock.org, who we've discovered is John Gary Warner.
Right.
Now, I don't know. So I will say this: when we first started talking about the debt clock, I did assume that it was the Seymour Durst clock. I didn't really realize that it was a completely different person, John Gary, or we speculate that it's John Gary Warner.
It's John Gary and his son, I believe, that are running that.
Yes. And so this John Warner, he's no stranger to online data communication. He also co-owns a site called celebritynetworth.com with his son. You're right, with his son Brian Warner, who's the CEO of CNW, the celebritynetworth.com. And John Warner is a native of Ohio and an Ohio State University law graduate and a resident of California, where he practiced law for 54 years. In 2018, a New York Times article concerning CNW, because they were wondering why is this guy's tracking all these celebrity incomes, they confirmed that John Warner and Brian Warner's were related. Right. And then, as a family that is active in sharing information with the public, it's no surprise that in July of 2019, Brian Warner also shared written testimony with the House Judiciary Subcommittee on Antitrust, Commercial, and Administrative Law regarding the devastating effects on Google, and in particular has had a web-based business, consumers, and the internet at large through its monopoly of online searches. So given the entrepreneurial spirit of the family and Bryant's public testimony condemning big tech, Eric Snyder was not surprised to find their connection to the USDC, which is the US debt clock. And I will say this, he puts in his article, while he didn't receive any responses to emails or phone calls when they attempted to contact John Warner about this website, one can publicly find that the usdebtclock.org was registered on 11.03.2008, one day before the presidential election of Barack Obama on November 4th, 2008. And according to the domain registration, the site is set to expire, which is interesting, on 11/3 of 2025. And then he poses the question, was the 11/3 launch date of usdebtclock.org purposeful? What sparked the reporting about our debt-based monetary system on that particular date? Did Mr. Warner foresee the December 30th, 2008 Case Shiller U.S. Home Price Index nosedive and subsequent global banking problems? Question mark. That's a lot to chew on.
Oh, I think that this was just no random act. When Barack Obama came in, I think that there are some people who understood what a fundamental transformation of the United States meant, and he said it on his inauguration. He had been talking about transformative policies, and there was no surprise that this is what was happening. And also, we had Lehman Brothers that went belly up. The market was in bad shape. I was in finance at that point in time, and I remembered that it happened, and it was quite serious and devastating. And you saw it coming. You saw it. Everybody would talk, Melissa, that this is big. This is just not going to be your everyday recession. This thing's going to be like something we haven't seen before. And sure as shooting, when you have real estate prices go down 50%, that is staggering.
Well, we did a show on that.
We did.
That crazy time and
Yeah.
how bad it affected everyone.
Yeah, very much so. I mean, what it was a redistribution of wealth. That is something that Barack Obama had talked about quite a bit, and that definitely is what happened with that. Many of those homes went to BlackRock, which is what we see today, where they are one of the largest leaseholders of real estate in the country.
They control an awful lot, don't they?
Hedge funds, you name it, they're usually coming out of BlackRock. Yeah, and I think it's also interesting too. I don't think the site's going to expire in 2025 because when you look at the debt clock, it says specifically up there when you look at the time machine, it will take you to budget showdown in 2028. So I don't think that they're going to let that juicy information, just go by the wayside.
Probably just that whoever registered that domain.
Exactly.
They paid through 11/3. However, I do find the date 11/3 because I see that number a lot floating around. Some people do 3/11. These like in the gematria people and people that do stuff with numerology seem to think that 11/3 is a significant date, and so I don't know these people. I don't know John Warner. I can only speculate that their intentions are good. You go through an awful lot of trouble to just be punking people, right? But it's very interesting that they've been, I don't know. We'll see if this article mentions this, but other people that I found that was researching the history of the debt clock has them also tied to the Ingersoll Rand Lockwood, what is it? Ingersoll Lockwood website that has a lot of clues and things on there as well. And some of the stuff is also, kind of cross-populated with the Q thing. And so there's a lot of people on the internet that are trying to spark your interest. They're trying to give you that little baby push to pique your interest enough for you to start to look into things for yourself. And so different strokes for different folks. Somebody might be intrigued on what the meaning of a date is, and others might be intrigued by a name of a person associated for something. Whatever gets you to look into this stuff for yourself and start giving it a little bit of attention, I think it is a good thing. And I really appreciate folks that go through the trouble to do this. I mean, they're using their time and their money and their effort to do it. And it's up to us of whether we want to give it any attention.
I think that they're patriots. They want to, oh gosh, the feedback is terrible. They're patriots. I believe that. I'm sure that Mr. Warner is concerned about his children and his grandchildren, and just like any of the other patriots out there who are trying to stop this nonsense. But Eric Snyder goes on to say here, as he was trying to learn more about the history of the USDC, he had a few questions. And so he went back to the Wayback Machine to investigate the original website layout. He wanted to know how money was reported to the public. Were definitions provided to users? And during the search in December 11th and December 20th of 2008 were the only dates where there were snapshots. When he tried to open the snapshots, he could not download the images. And it was not until September 2009 when a snapshot was taken of the USDC partially functioning. So it took a little while, it seems like, to get this up and running.
Yeah.
The tables had included the largest budget items, financial meltdown, trade numbers, et cetera, in 2009. Interestingly, 2009 is when Bitcoin came on the scene too.
See, it's all tied together. I mean, really.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, indeed.
So many things. Yeah.
Satoshi wrote his white paper in 2008. Yep. Nothing to see here, folks. In 2009, the U.S. debt held by foreign countries was a mere sarcasm, noted at $3.4 trillion today, and it's $7.7 trillion. Reviewing the website's numerical calculations, it's clear that the website developer have added a plethora of tables, as Melissa showed you a little while ago. There's variables and attributes to the site over the last 15 years. Inherently, some of these tables were of more interest to the author than to others. And then on January 18th of 2010, Eric Snyder was able to confirm the website added the money creation table. This specific table is important because if you scroll over the category, and I'm not sure if you can show that, Melissa, is it possible? Do they still have the money creation table on there?
Let's see if I can find it.
See if we can show that while I'm reading this.
Yeah. Let me get back to finding that tab for you. We'll put it. I had it up there. Okay, there we go. Let's see.
Nothing like putting her on the spot, right?
No, you're fine.
She has the controls.
I'm educated with this enough to be dangerous. All right, let's see. There we go. Okay.
So the money creation table, that table is important because if you scroll over the category, a definition surfaces at the top of the page. Are you able to click that?
Yeah, so I'm looking to see which area is the money creation area. There's the U.S. National Debt tab.
Well, while you're looking for it, I'm just going to go read on here.
Yep.
While the numerical values of the Federal Reserve monetary base did not populate, I think you have it popped up there now. Having the definition from the website is important. A Federal Reserve monetary base is the total amount of a currency that is either circulated in the hands of the public or in the commercial bank deposits held in the central bank reserves. So to make one thing clear, currency is not necessarily money. Oh my gosh, did you hear Donald Trump say that the other day?
No.
When he was being interviewed with Laura Ingraham, she had asked if it was time to accept Bitcoin. He says, well, sure. He goes, I'm okay with that. People are using, he goes, but my thing is, I still like the dollar. It's my favorite currency. Now, he specifically did not say money. And we know that for sure. Currency is not necessarily money. What gives a currency value, what gives the paper Federal Reserve notes value, what is money? Do leading intellectuals, CEOs, and local national politicians, including our congressional representatives, have any idea of the history of our actual money? I would dare to bet that no. Many do not have a good handle on that. The word dollar itself was never written in the Articles of Confederation and was only written in the United States Constitution 2 times. Under Amendment 7, Article 1, Section 9, Clause 1, it was clear the dollar was a coin, not paper money.
Mm.
How many of our economic experts know a dollar was defined as 371 and a quarter grains of silver on the common colonial silver coinage at the time? The Spanish mill dollar? Now, I also know it's in the Bible as well. By defining the dollar as a unit of measure, the founders then provided ratios and measures for gold equals 24.7 and 4/8 grains, and copper cents, which were the value of 1/100th part of a dollar and contain 11 penny weights of copper. See, these are all things that have value. The metals. Paper doesn't have any value per se.
No.
It serves a purpose, but it doesn't have any value.
Trust that the value that they tell you is there, right?
Right.
I
Yeah.
mean, we're in a trusted system here where we assume that they're telling us the truth, and many of us have, and we've never really questioned the value of the actual dollar. I didn't
Exactly.
before.
You know, sadly, this information was not passed down to Americans. It's not taught in school. And the makers of the USDC further exacerbated the misconception initially by calling the printing of Federal Reserve paper currency money creation. Should not be called that. But for those interested in learning more about money, you know, there's a Mike Maloney series called Hidden Secrets of Money, as well as the incredible Coins Financial School book written by William Hope Harvey. And that was written in 1894.
Wow.
Yes.
I haven't read that one. I saw.
Have you ever wondered, we talked about this before, why Mike Maloney's material or even Harvey's materials are not requirements in our standardized and nationalized educational system?
Yeah.
I mean, you mentioned Keynesian economics before when leading up to the 2008 crash. Well, they in Maloney's and Harvey's, Keynesian is not good. I mean, they're more along the Austrian economics line where, you know, in Austrian economics, you have true value for a true something. Let's put it this way. If you had a piece of gold and you're willing to pay a price for a piece of gold, I mean, you have shared value on both sides of the equation. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
But in Keynesian economics, just let the printer print, you know. We can just make more debt, and impoverish people even more.
Yeah.
Let's see. Then there was, let's see, go back here. The 4,000, the April 10th change. Oh, I'm back. I'm sorry, I jumped ahead here. No. When did the USDC update the money creation table next? From 2010 to 2019, the changes in the variable names and definitions were nuanced. They weren't a big deal. However, in April 10th, 2020, change from the US monetary base, now the Federal Reserve, to US Treasury dollars now, could one day prove to be a significant monetary event. I remember that. That was the day the Mnuchin and Trump were standing in the Oval Office while Trump was signing the executive order.
Yep.
Was the change of the Warner debt clock a result of March 27th, 2020? The Bloomberg article titled "The Fed's Cure Risks Being Worse Than the Disease" by Jim Bianco during COVID-19. Was it a result of the complex use of corporate law to hide who controls our currency? A scenario of the U.S. Treasury printing or coining dollars at zero interest is very different from the Federal Reserve printing dollars with interest. That's huge.
Yep.
There's an image that's shown here. I don't know. Do you have a copy of that image? I think you had just popped it up where it said wealth-based, debt-free, non-interest bearing.
Yep, I'm going to grab that right now. There we go.
There you go. In this image, we should note the website's change in the coloration of the tab, a beautiful gold and silver. But why did the content creator select gold and silver hues? Could physical metal back the treasury dollars? Do the developers and owners have an understanding of sound money? I bet they do.
Yeah. Well, and the fact, that Trump had signed that, a lot of people missed that during that time,
Right.
right? There was so much going on, that was a little tidbit of information that people completely overlooked, and
They
the
thought,
media cover
yeah,
it at
they
hardly.
thought, well, why is he bringing the Fed under the Treasury?
Mhm, mhm.
Well, some of us who had been studying it back then, we knew, and we were all giddy about it. But we're still waiting to see the actual effects of all of that. I think we all had expected something sooner. But as things have been rolling out, I think we have a clear understanding as to why.
One thing I want to say about this before we go on, I know that financial stuff is boring. These kind of topics are not exciting for a lot of people. And they, even reading this, trying to read it, I wanted to listen to it, trying to read it in one setting, and not get my mind distracted. Even me, someone that's into it, um, is like, oh geez, this is a long article, and I'm pressed for time. I've got to do this, I've got to do that. And so, someone would ask, why are they playing these little games with the debt clock, and they're posting these pictures, and they're doing this thing? They're trying to make it fun for you guys. They're trying to make it fun. They're trying to spark your interest a little bit,
Right.
make it so it's not so boring, and bring it down on and into a level that is a little bit easier for people to understand. In my opinion, that's my opinion.
Right.
But anyway, I just had to throw that in there.
No, I think it's good. Well, there was no longer a definition provided at the top of the page when one would scroll over the U.S. Treasury variable. Instead, when you scroll over the U.S. Treasury dollars now, a window surfaced with the U.S. Treasury dollars in the image that she just showed.
Mhm.
Now, entire libraries could be filled with books about the historical significance of money being issued by the U.S. Treasury. But more importantly, when President Lincoln and President Kennedy decided to serve the interests of the American people by printing greenbacks and silver certificates. Remember those silver certificates? I have a couple of them laying around. That returned control of the nation's monetary supply to the people. It appears their death sentences were authorized. I certainly believe that. So what's really cool, if you want additional details on how this may have come about, watch the relatively new documentary film by Ken Del Vecchio. It's titled For Presidents, Oval Office Conspiracies. I can't wait to see that. I bookmarked this myself.
Yeah.
While President Garfield and President McKinley weren't included in the image on the USDC website, both of these men also made attempts to reestablish sound money principles to prevent further connivery from foreigners and corruption from within. Now remember, infiltration over invasion.
Yeah. That makes sense.
Gosh, it just so rings true, doesn't it?
It does. It does. So,
You want to take this next section?
So the US.clock.org got a major upgrade in 2023. And as if the enormous changes to the money creation tables were not enough, I continued to keep an eye on the USDC with an inclination that there would be more to the story. And on September 22nd, 2023, the overall website layout changed substantially. And that is actually when it got really fun looking. This coincided with the passing of the $33 trillion U.S. national debt mark, which 33 is also a significant number that gets thrown around all over, and it has, significant meaning. The first change was a large spike in the U.S. Treasury dollars in conjunction with the variable language change from U.S. Treasury dollars now, $786 million, to U.S. Treasury dollars 2025, $1.52 trillion. Why the date 2025? And how does the site even calculate the US Treasury dollars of the future? This is what he's asking here. Furthermore, the website added a G7 GDP to gold ratio with a blue background color, followed by the BRICS GDP to gold ratio with a red background color. The ratios are concerning given the fact that the G7's influence globally is waning in comparison to the BRICS nations. This is especially true as we continue to weaponize the fiat dollar by funding foreign wars. Yes, we do continue doing that, don't we? As a response, it's frustrating.
We're laundering money, actually. We're funding these wars, and that money's coming back to the United States and is making the weapons.
It's doing something. One thing, in my opinion, it's definitely not going for what we think that it's going for, and they're just, I don't know. As a response, the BRICS nations have united to challenge Western hegemony with Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. That's what makes up the BRICS nations. If for those of you who don't know. And they've also extended invitations to Argentina, Egypt, Ethiopia, Iran, and Saudi Arabia to join in August of 2023. These additional nations are critical to the BRICS, especially Saudi Arabia, whose milestone pact with Henry Kissinger, if those of you remember that, and Nixon had helped stabilize the fiat dollar's value globally for 50 years after President Nixon removed our dollar from the gold standard. That's still a sting for those of us who understand what that meant when that happened.
Right.
But what about our currency supply? It is important to mention the addition of the M2 money supply to USA ratio now with a red, white, and blue background. The following definition is directly from the site. How many Americans realize they pay interest? Get this. How many Americans realize they pay interest on the currency being printed by the Federal Reserve, which is the M2? Is it a coincidence that at the time of this writing, the ratio is currently 1777 to 1, and that the Articles of Confederation were signed in 1777? Yeah. And
there's no coincidences.
That's what I mean. They're kind of making it fun for people, I think, to kind of tie things together. And that is a quinky dink. So it says the Articles of Confederation were clear in Article 1. The style of this confederacy shall be the United States of America. So is the United States of America Treasury creating debt-free, interest-free money? The truth is, Eric doesn't know.
Right.
However, the timing for the reconstruction seems propitious. I don't know how to say that. That's a word I don't know. The recreation seems propitious, probably, I don't know. And while the linguistic changes, variable additions, and overall alterations to the website remain fascinating, the message added to the U.S. Debt Clock on October 1st, 2023 is where the real learning began. And this is where it was fun. The secret windows into the future, ?
Yeah.
So, and we started covering the secret window, the Tuesdays and Sundays secret window.
Right.
On October 1st, 2023, below the usdebtclock.org header had a message that indicated secret window, and it would premiere that evening from 9 p.m. to 12 a.m. Eastern. And Eric says he loves that the developers added "don't tell anyone" language, that the secrets have now appeared every Sunday and Tuesday and Thursday evening since October 1st. In total, Eric's collected and attempted to translate 40 of these message, with each presenting an investigative challenge. So you want to take the first one was the verse from Matthew. What is it? It's on page 4.
And Jesus went into the temple of God. Back up. Matthew 21, 12, 13. And Jesus went into the temple of God and cast out all of them that were sold and bought in the temple, and overthrew the tables of the money changers. Scriptures is always difficult to interpret, as there are many versions of the Bible. These interpretations and transcriptions have resulted in alter words and punctuation over time. If there's one thing we've learned, is that the fact that grammar is essential. A simple capitalization of a word can contractually alter its interpretation and meaning. So what should we take from this biblical secret window? The money changers were corrupt, and their existence within God's kingdom frustrated Jesus. Jesus said unto them, "It is written, my house shall be called the house of prayer, but ye have made it a den of thieves." Unfortunately, as revealed by the staggering data on the Durst Debt Clock, the Peterson Foundation Debt Clock, and the USDC website, a den of thieves have also infiltrated America, making the truism of John Adams' words all the more pertinent today. But the USDC elicits hope. And just as Lincoln and Kennedy printed debt-free, interest-free money, our leaders of the future seem poised to do the same.
Yes. Yeah. That's very interesting. The tie where, there's over the past years, they would say it's going to be biblical or it's biblical, right? And this is where I followed the Q thing, and there was a lot of biblical references, and there was a lot of memes. It's going to be biblical. It's all tied together. Everything's tied together. And, Jesus was not happy with the money changers, and he went in there and he flipped over those tables,
right,
in disgust. And I think that there's some people that are flipping tables and trying to get us back to real money. And I hope that I think we're going in the right direction with this. I really
do too. I mean, there's going to come a time where it has to stop. Do you want to finish the last paragraph, or should I?
I can do it if you want me to.
Go ahead. Sure.
Over the last 248 years, many governments of nations have failed. What have we learned through their peril is that ethics can collapse, that individuals can do malevolent acts, and that regardless of the form of governance, the power to print an unlimited paper money will inevitably result in societal degradation. It's time for Americans to return to sound money and consciousness of the debt clock can lead the way. Absolutely. I mean, and I will say, if I can, we're going to post the link to this article. I think I already did, actually, in the description of our video.
It's fantastic.
And at the bottom, he has Eric has all of his sources that he used and image citations listed for those of you who are interested to see what this all is about. And I just thank Eric Snyder and George Magazine for putting this together. I hope you guys don't mind that we covered your material. This was great. We just want to get this information out there. There's quite a few people out that are covering the U.S. debt clock. Echo the Truth is on Twitter. It is a fun one that I follow that covers the U.S. debt clock. And it's very interesting. And so whatever sparks your interest, that's what you need to pay attention or give attention to.
Ariel has talked quite a bit about this as well.
You're right.
Yeah. And he's also, now, a couple of thoughts that I had when we were reading this is that I think about Argentina and President Milei, and how he is slicing and dicing the deficit in his country. Now he still has to grow the economy. That hasn't happened yet, but he's cut quite a bit of debt. And when you think about societal degradation, I know how to say that word.
I know. I'm like,
But when you look at the Argentinians, it used to be a very wealthy country, and over time, because of the money changers and what they were doing and socialist policies, they just enslaved the people of Argentina, and this is quite frankly why President Milei won, and he's doing something about this. We're seeing it all over. I mean, you look at other countries that were very wealthy. Venezuela is one. They're still under the oppression of President Maduro. But that regime should fall at some point in time. People have learned how to survive and live in a parallel economy there. So, in essence, you have this oppressed economy, a government that's on one layer, but then you have people living in a parallel economy and they're getting along pretty good. I mean, much better than when it went complete communism. It's because they're living on Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies.
yeah.
Look at El Salvador.
Yeah.
They got away from the globalists. They don't need them anymore. They fixed their problems. This is the way. This is the way to go. And unfortunately, we're playing catch up.
Yeah.
Usually, United States had always led the way, but it's very concerning that we're not leading.
Well, I think it's more of a pushback because they don't want it to change, right? They
No,
don't
they
want
don't.
they want to keep it the way that it is. They don't want us educated in this subject at all, you know. Um, and I just want to encourage all of you. You don't have to be a scholar or somebody
No,
that is
not at all.
well versed in finance or whatever. Ask questions. Have some confidence in yourself. Think about things logically, and just ask yourself, are you okay with this? All right, when you look at that debt clock and you look at all the numbers, just look at one of them and
Right.
start asking questions, and use the little notes that are provided within that debt clock, and then search out the terms, even what they mean. Search out the Coin Act. um you know Start do what you said. We have it on our website, I believe, the Money Masters
Right.
series. Links to that series. There's a Bill Still that also has wonderful videos that talks about the money. There are so many wonderful people in this world that are giving of themselves and their time to try and help educate others on what is money, and whether you're going to go the cryptocurrency Bitcoin route, or you're going to go the gold and silver route. um, Anything but the debt-based route. Anything but being accepting of the way things are, and that they can't be changed, because they can be changed. We have the power to change them together.
There's another source out there. It's called the Mises Institute. That's MISES.
Yeah.
And that's misesinstitute.org. And you'll find many articles and videos and podcasts there all about what is money, sound money. And speaking about what is money,
Yeah.
I would search out Robert Breedlove on YouTube. What
Ooh,
is Money show?
yeah.
I think videos 1 through 9, where he is interviewing Michael Saylor, would be quite enlightening.
Ah, I think I'm posting the right link. Oh, I didn't do the right. It's
ES. Yes. Let me
MISENSTITUT.
see if I could pull it up.
Yeah, for some reason when I typed in, it didn't.
Maybe
So
it's just Mises.org. I'm sorry, MISES.org.
there we go. Well, yes, that is a great website. Yeah, like I said, and not everybody not everybody relates to all these different
Right.
people. Pick one, find one that has some bones that you like, and explore with it a little bit. Even if you do a little bit of each day, you know,
You don't have to be nerdy like us,
you
but you
don't.
know, I think it's the responsibility of each and every one of us to know the difference between money and currency. It can
Yeah.
make it will make huge changes for you in your life once you realize that
Mhm.
that these little greenbacks that we have in our wallet, uh, every one that we pull out is just creating another dollar of debt. It's just a debt instrument.
I agree. I agree.
Yes. Do
Well, wow.
something with that. Do something with it and invest it while we can still use our Federal Reserve notes to go and buy hard assets.
Yes. Yeah. I
And you
want to
could
buy
start
a car.
very small.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, this has been a great show. I enjoyed covering this. Like I said, I appreciate George Magazine and Eric Snyder. I kept calling him Schneider, and it's Snyder, and it's Snyder. Sorry about that, Eric. Um, and the wonderful work that he did, and getting people to think, and I appreciate that. And we appreciate all of you that stopped by the show and continue to support us by sharing and liking our videos, and joining us in conversations. We love you and we thank you. And we will be back next week, same day, same time.
Same Beyond the Brink channel.
Same Beyond the Brink channel. And with that, we would like to tell you to have a good rest of your day.
Yeah.
We'll
Take
see you
care, you
next.
guys.
All right.